What he is seeing and hearing is nothing but a dream. He is dreaming right now, in this moment. A dream distilled from an amalgam of beliefs, a consensus of accepted falsehoods, ideas of good and evil, social mores. He didn't choose his beliefs, he simply accepted what was passed down to him. This was a process of domestication, of sedation, of organized unrealities. He trusts what he believes, and his beliefs set him up for suffering. Primordially torn, an ancestral visceral knowledge lays nested in the depth of his being. He wakes from one dream to another. We journey from the outward and external, abandoning his earthly abode to enter the celestial spheres of his mind. In the chaos of nothingness, we find a spring and source of life. Multitudes of chemical reactions form a matrix of atmosphere, and a planet coheres. Silent as a shadow, consciousness slips into the world, and something new takes root. Something not driven by external forces, but in motion from within, prompted by itself and nothing else. An embryonic man, born out of the primordial soup of this new world. With his body bogged down in the ordure, he rises up from the foundations of death and ruin that befell the dinosaurs. A compound of human and animal traits, unencumbered and unjudged by any known standard. No convictions outraged. Neither rule of life nor civilization. A creature of the woods and rocks. A child of nature upon whose hidden resources he can depend. A paragon of beings, directed by instinct rather than volition. Connected to a oneness, a whole, a web of which no strand is autonomous. Mind and body, galaxy and atom are intimately bound. It seemed he was leading towards something, though now he feels his way along, as if finding his way through a maze. Something led him off his path, something ruinous. A schism. A chromosomic twitch. Transmutation into a contradictory being, fueled by bestial self-fulfillment with its corresponding impetus. Unintelligently ruled by his biology, he satisfies his primal urges without compromise. After a rush of prurience has run its course, he is left empty in a black void, an intonation of death. Fear of death brings forth ignorance of life and heralds a birth of polarities, of love and hate, light and dark. Everything becomes dual. There are no longer absolutes. The world assumes a threatening aspect. Shadows in the moonlight and leaves rustling in the wind. He impregnates these sights and sounds with imaginings and apprehensions, with the terrible and the unknown. Beset by potential dangers, the shadows of his thoughts lengthen as his fear dilates. For the world teems with savage beasts, real and imaginary, horrors and dream creatures, man-eating fiends with macabre traits and elemental powers. Through fear, he concocts an almighty protective power, an uncanny masquerade where things he would rather not see are hidden behind an accent of self-deceit. Doctrines are promulgated and seeds of tyranny are sown. The urge to worship sparks civilizations, and a man-made deity usurps nature's throne. He performs rituals of veneration, revelry mired in blood and pain in a quest for unimpeded sovereignty. With his mistaken notions, the further he advances, the further he goes astray. Religious dogmas become a tool to take over land and control the masses. Imprisonment by means of psychological manipulation. Total enslavement in the name of a divine being. Elaborate deception propagated by charlatans. Psychopaths have hijacked the world and are tearing it apart. Fear in the inevitability of conflict creates a breeding ground for things that disunite. A contagion of violence spreads across the land. Once free as a beast, he now lives in a world of obscured human slavery masquerading as freedom. Physical life in a world abandoned by the spirit. A world where all magic and mystery has been bled out. He has split into two, object and subject. A duality that metastasizes with vigor. He grapples with pulsions and forces that he recognizes only dimly and understands even less. He does not know his own motivations and is unable to control them. As though persecuted by some uncanny mechanism, imposing thoughts upon his passive mind, corrupting his natural impulses. An external force which overlays his psyche, keeping him unaware of their influence and blinded to his veiled imprisonment. A prison of the soul. His days once had impetus, motivated by the basic needs of an impersonal survival. Though with his moral senses suffocated, he consumes in a ruthless, predatory fashion, preferring to prey on others rather than to produce his own nourishment. A catalyst for division and hierarchy. He was once a complete being with stupendous instincts and feats of awareness, a mythological legend. Though the magical being that he was destined to be is no longer. He is a mere quantity of thoughts and desires, thousand-minded, at odds with himself and others. A sinful creature doomed to death. Is this evolution? To be bent into a new animal? An aberration? A mutant who embodies the contorted logic of paradox? A product of compulsive inner processes, filled with wanton distraction, without cause or care, he tyrannizes over his planet's lower-level inhabitants. His primal rejection of weakness, as natural as the instinct to nurture, sentimentality quickly spills over into cruelty. A victim of his own perverted super-science, he is rendered useless, comatose. An automaton controlled by reaction and resistance. Dark, inexplicable addictions and unabating hungers own his freedom. His willpower seems to have been taken away and replaced with some devilish incubus. It seems he could escape if only he could bring himself to will it. Somehow he cannot. Refusing to look into the jaws of existence, he blinds his periphery with concoctions and anesthesia. Anything to block the knowledge of his impending mortality. Death reveals the emptiness that was there before. Is God in attendance here? Consumed by ego, he compares what he is with what he should be and masquerades as something he is not. He believes that to survive, he must be physically superior to creatures such as bears and lions, dragons and primeval bulls. Incarnations sprung from ancestral memories, pictorial metaphors for his own qualities that must be externalized and defeated. His persona is an illusion, a ruse, a pageant of deception driven by vanity and desire. A stage of moral confounding where ethics have become aesthetics. At cross purposes with nature, the ego forms a boundary between the self and the outside world, and seeks out enemies to strengthen the sense of separateness on which his identity depends. Like silent archers, the ego stands sentry scanning the horizon, ready to subjugate any and all adversaries. An efficient militaristic strategist, the ego executes stupendous maneuvers to eradicate his primal instincts. The ego attempts to institute martial law over his consciousness, holding dominion over the land. It tyrannizes with impunity. All thoughts and impulses considered incompatible with civilization are bound by shackles of social conventions and condemned to dungeons and sepulchres, the dark recesses of the mind. In constant danger of being extinguished, his primordial self holds on against great odds. Can he meet the cosmos on his own terms? Could he endure a full awakening? Or would it destroy him? Trained to resist his instincts, he bears the strain of primitive impulses which clamor for satisfaction. A facade of traits masks a dark and complicated anger, a mind befouled with the essence of pure poison. Rage seems to lurk in every corner. His reasoning faculties perceive everything as a threat, believing that for one organism to live, others must die. Unable to control the internal, he tries to control the external. With his nature of destruction and self-fulfillment, he exhausts the land, vandalizing and sacking the earth as a contradictory means of living better in it. a global workhouse never at rest. Nature unfolds without dissatisfaction. There's no right or wrong, good or bad. Everything sings in a great chorus. Each knows its place. Man alone does not. Born to a civilization suffering from amnesia, he is doomed to repeat mistakes of the past. Rationalizing war as crusades of cleansing and restoration, he lives in a state of perpetual conflict. His world is a burning house. If he continues in his ways, he will annihilate his planet. All life blotted out. Everything that can happen, happens. It has to end well, and it has to end badly. It has to end every way it can. There was a moment in his history, a calamitous event, that led him to this point right now. He must find that moment and understand it. It is the only way to rectify his failures and avert his imminent destruction. Where does he stand in the totality of the universe? The product of a grand evolutionary sequence or a syphilitic parasite? How is he to reconcile the two extremes of his nature? Bound to something bigger than himself, something far greater than the limits of his comprehension. Life is a rebus, a puzzle in which he must decode, though he awaits a command that has already been given. The world around him is a reflection of the world inside, as within, so without. As above, so below.